I'm Kiyan.
This is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we gel our eyebrows because this week we watched The Sunmakers,
Written by Robert Holmes.
directed by Pennant Roberts.
And aired in November and December of 77.
Yay, I guess. Almost at the end of 77. Almost into 78.
Yeah.
Another year down.
And just 12 more to go.
12 more in the classic series.
And another...
just under 40, I guess. 38.
Yeah. Anyway, gelling your eyebrows actually looks kind of uncomfortable. Gelling your hair is actually uncomfortable, so, I mean, gelling your eyebrows would kind of probably be the same deal.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're just going to make it into those spikes. Impale your enemies on your eyebrows.
Well, I mean, he couldn't get out of that chair, so I guess it was his only weapon. I mean, other than a gun.
Or taxes, if you're to believe this serial.
Right. And this serial was written because Robert Holmes hated taxes.
He was having some problems doing his taxes that year. And he's like, you know what? I'll write a Doctor Who serial about it and be progressive and use TV to send a message.
Right. I mean, even if you didn't know that this... Even if you somehow didn't read that this was based on his loathe for... I don't think that's actually the correct use of that term, but...
For the Internal Revenue Service?
Right, yes. Even if you didn't...
Whatever it's called.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not the IRS, because they're...
That's the U.S.
Well, even if you didn't read that that's why the serial was written, it's blatantly obvious, and you'd have to be brain dead to not realize. I don't know.
Well, it's blatantly obvious, but it's not like they come out and say taxes are bad. At least there's some thinking involved.
Yeah,
At least
I guess...
it's not Monster of Peladon.
I guess. I mean, this was still actually kind of an enjoyable serial. I mean, I admit it wasn't the best serial in the world. And looking back on it, actually wasn't too dense. You know, not much happened plot-wise, but it was still enjoyable. And I think the main trio, the Dr. Leela and K9's character interactions, were pretty superb in this serial.
Yeah, well, K9 actually does something. So K9
Finally.
actually leaves the TARDIS, but he does it by ignoring the Doctor. Okay, we'll get there. So it opens with, once again, 10 minutes of the Doctor not showing up.
Right. It's set on Pluto, and a worker in some sort of facility is called into the office of his superior. And this is our first instance of seeing the bare, blank, dull hallways of this serial.
I'm telling you, it's like they found the nearest office building and just borrowed that for the week to film this serial.
Yeah. I mean, the sets pretty much sucked. There was probably close to zero effort put into these sets, except for maybe the command room or whatever it was.
And Hade's office.
I guess. Those poorly carpeted stairs just in the middle of the room that led to nowhere, though. I mean, that was some Dr. Seuss stuff.
Well,
I actually don't think they led to nowhere. I think they led to a little upper level, but...
Yeah, his office just had a little upper level for some reason. I mean, none of the offices made sense in this serial. Like I said, it seems like they just went next door and filmed in the hallways of the next door building. And on the roof, I might add.
Yeah.
Just went on the roof. Apparently this is the first serial to feature on-location filming in Bristol, so...
Yeah.
There you go.
And would be until like 2012 or something, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe they realized that Bristol is composed of dull gray roofs and blank hallway. No, I don't know.
Blank medical-looking hallways. So he gets called into Hade's office. His name is Hade. He's
the Gatherer. That's his official title.
He's wearing this hat that looks like sort of afro-type looking thing, but it's purple on the front and has like an Incan rune.
Yeah, it has a little caricature of a sun, I guess.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, actually, the fact that they're making suns here, it doesn't really come into play too much. I mean, they don't even mention it until 4, and
I mentioned it briefly in one. I think the worker dude, who I forgot his name right now, mentions
Cordo?
that Cordo mentions that there's 6 suns on Pluto, and the doctor's like, oh, 6 suns.
yeah. But I mean, obviously, it's the sun makers, so obviously the company here is making suns. But yeah, Cordo is the one who is called into Hade's office, and he needs to pay for his father's funeral. Was it?
Yeah, because it actually opens with that super brief scene of that lady on the screen going, and he's dead and buried now. And Cordo's like, what a relief. And I'm like, what? Did you just hate your father?
No, he just hated his life on Pluto.
Yeah, he paid for the maximum funeral service for his father, and he goes into the office, and Hade is like, yeah, the prices were raised, and Cordo's like, but I can't pay the raised prices. I was told 80 Delmars. Hade's like, well, it's 117.
And he's sentenced, since Cordo can't pay, he's sentenced to something or the other.
Triple overtime with no extra pay.
Right.
Something
and I think
like
Hade mentioned something along those lines, and Hade mentions that he'll be able to get 7 hours of sleep a week or something like that.
Well, I think Cordo says, I already only get 7 hours of sleep, and Hade's like, well, I guess you'll have to take 5 now, or something like that. And Cordo's like, but I'll die, and Hade's like, doesn't matter to me, bye.
Yeah, this is reminiscent of some turn of the 19th or 20th century level stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it was also kind of subtly critiquing just capitalism in general.
Yeah. Apparently there's a line directly lifted from, like, the Communist Manifesto or something.
Yeah, there's a line that's references the manifesto. It's not directly lifted because it wouldn't make sense if it was. But now should be a good time for me to mention that I thought that Hade had a pseudo-Jamaican accent the entire serial. Because his assistant was named Mon. So he kept saying, yeah, Mon, let's go. And I'm like, is that what? I don't know. Because no one else in the serial talked to the assistant. And I didn't know her name was Mon until at the end when Hade was talking to the collector and was like, yeah, I'll have my assistant Mon go get it. I'm like, wait, that's her name?
Yeah, Marn.
Oh. The way Hade pronounced it was like Mon. I guess it was supposed to be some sort of implication that English has digressed some more, because he pronounces the mahogany of his desk like mahogany.
Is it supposed to be a corruption or a regression of the language, or is that just how they pronounce it in the UK?
No, I think pretty much everyone calls it mahogany.
Okay.
Mahogany is really weird. Somehow I really don't think anyone pronounces it that way.
I guess there wouldn't be one uniform pronunciation in the UK, come to think of it, since there's like 10 million accents there. And here, I guess. But anyway, that's not important because the Doctor and Leela show up in the TARDIS, obviously, and they're on the roof.
Yeah, the Doctor's playing chess with K9. Apparently that chess positioning was based on some championship match between 2 famous chess players, but then the wiki makes a note to mention that those 2 players never actually played each other, so it's not really sure what the director was talking about.
Okay, well, K9's winning. The Doctor's a little annoyed. And this comes into play later. Much later.
Briefly, if you could even call that coming into play.
It does. It's funny. Anyway, they land and they head out.
Well, no, they leave K9 behind, and the Doctor's like, stay here, K9, we're just gonna go check to see where we've landed, since I'm not really sure where we've landed, as usual. Kind of hit some turbulence again. Yeah, turbulence. It's definitely turbulence.
So they head out, and they're on the roof of this building, and I guess the Doctor realizes they're on Pluto.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time we realize they're on Pluto. He actually I think he realizes they're on Pluto in the TARDIS, because he tells K9 Pluto's no place for and then he kind of trails off, but obviously it's no place for a dog, and I was like, haha, I guess that's kind of a reference to Disney's Pluto. And since K9 was originally meant to be called Pluto.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Or maybe it was just a complete coincidence.
Maybe it was just a throwaway line of nothingness.
And as usual, the fans read way too much into it.
So they go outside, and the Doctor takes out a telescope out of his coat pocket, and he's like, I'm just going to look around and see what's going on. Leela tries to keep bothering him about Cordo standing on the edge of a building about to jump off.
Yep.
The Doctor's like, what is it, Leela? And Leela's already run off to go stop Cordo. The Doctor runs over and is like, don't touch him. And they kind of talk him down. The Doctor offers him a jelly baby, and then they kind of jump him.
Yeah, this is actually one of the more dark serials. I mean, we have this attempted suicide right here, and some more stuff in a bit. But right, they talk Cordo down, so to speak, and he explains that he just can't pay his taxes, so he might as well end his life.
Yeah, meanwhile, we cut to Haid and Mon, and they've seen the TARDIS land on the roof, and they're like, suspicious. It's not registered in our database. Better go check it out. So they head up to the roof to go check it out, and, well, actually, they watch K9 come out of the TARDIS, and they're like, what is that?
They come up with some explanation as to who or what K9 is, but it's obviously completely wrong.
So they decide to tag K9 with a tracker, and K9 goes hunting for the Doctor. And the Doctor and Leela and Cordo have escaped into the building because apparently the lower class aren't allowed to see the sun. Only Haid and Mon and the rulers of the district, so to speak, can see the sun.
Right, so I guess it was a crime in the first place that Cordo was even out there?
Well, I mean, if he was going to commit suicide, what does one more crime matter?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, that's why he went out there, so I'm just trying to paint this picture in my head, but anyway.
Well, why is the roof even accessible to the lower class if they're not allowed to be up there?
Maybe it wasn't, maybe he snuck up there, I don't know.
Well,
Cordo did seem pretty incompetent on his own, to be perfectly honest.
Well, they go inside, they head down some stairs, and Cordo drops truth bomb that his dad worked in the Undercity, or near the Undercity, and knew how to get there and told Cordo, so he's going down to the Undercity to try and meet up with the other rebels, who I guess have rebelled against company rule.
Right, I guess this is where you learn, or maybe it's just where I realized that they all live in this company compound, I guess kind of like a company town, except worse, probably.
Except the whole planet is ruled by the company. There's
right. Well, I mean, it's
megalopolises.
It's Pluto, so like that's the size of your backyard. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, right. So yeah, apparently they just know how to get down to the Undercity. I guess because Cordo's dad was close to the Undercity. Apparently they just have an Undercity. They know they have the Undercity too. They know there's known rebels living underneath the government compound, and I guess they just tolerate them.
I guess if they don't cause trouble, and you can just leave them alone.
They do cause trouble. They mention how they steal and pillage from the company. Anyway, they head down there, and the citizens of the Undercity aren't exactly the most friendly bunch.
No, but you'd think they would want as many people in their rebellion as possible. But instead, the leader's just kind of a jerk and decides to immediately threaten the Doctor and Leela with death.
Well, do they actually have a rebellion at this point, or is it just incited like midway through this serial?
Well, I mean, the stealing and pillaging is obviously implied to be some sort of civil disobedience. So
okay, yeah.
There's a clear dissent amongst the group, and there's a reason why they're living in the Undercity.
I guess they just don't want anyone holding them back. Like Cordo.
Yeah, but Cordo masterminds the whole plan later.
I guess Cordo
it's with input from the Doctor.
Yeah.
Heavy input from the Doctor.
Well, the leader here is named Mandrill, which is a type of monkey. Spelled differently, but I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny. They just kept calling him Mandrill.
Yeah, well, K9 has run into the Doctor and Leela, and the tracker is transferred to the Doctor, I think. No, it's kept on K9 right now because they couldn't get it on the Doctor because the Doctor moved by too quickly. I think while the Doctor is going to get the money from the bank.
Yeah, the Mandrill gives him a little slip or something they stole, I guess, that allows him 1,000 Talmars from the government.
Yeah,
or something. So
they forged it.
And they hold Leela hostage.
Yeah.
And tell the Doctor to go get the money.
And he sees K9 and is like, oh, you left the TARDIS, didn't you, K9? Oh, well, guess you're here now. But and And then Hayde and Mon try to transfer the tracker from K9 to the Doctor, but Mon is hilariously incompetent and doesn't do it in time because the Doctor's already out of K9's view, because K9 heads on, I think, to find Leela.
It takes like a half an episode doing it, even though the Doctor and Leela traversed the same location in about 5 seconds. I guess K9 is actually pretty slow, so I guess it's justified.
Yeah, so the Doctor gets to the bank and he puts in the slip and he's like, oh yeah, everything's going well, gonna get me some money. And then the door shuts and he starts getting gassed. I actually made a note about this because this is how episode 1 ends and episode 2 begins with the Doctor passing out from the gas. Like, wait, hasn't the Doctor like specifically mentioned before that he doesn't have to breathe air? He has like a respiratory bypass system or whatever?
Whatever.
I was like, what? Continuity error. But whatever, the Doctor gets knocked out and taken to the medical bay / holding cell, I guess.
Right. He's in there with another guy, and did you notice he sits up sort of in a rush or like in confusion. Did you notice he kind of mooed while he got up? He was like, moo! I don't know. He made like a cow-esque noise.
What?
It's pretty interesting.
I didn't notice he was in a straitjacket, though.
Yeah.
He was like, ah! The other guy was like, don't try struggling. You'll never get out. And the Doctor's like, yeah. You know, you'd think with all those tricks he's learned from Houdini in the past, he would learn how to escape his straitjacket.
Yep, apparently not. Well, he offers the guy next to him jelly babies.
Yeah, because he leaves the bag behind. He like gets up and also fiddles with some control, I guess, with his face. Now that I think about it, since his hands are restrained.
No, I don't even remember how he managed that, but a guard comes, I guess it's a little later, but a guard comes in and messes with the controls and I guess just gets zapped.
And dies, I think. We don't actually know if he died or not.
Yeah.
We just assume he did. Anyone who receives that much electricity to his body probably dies. That's another death for the Doctor. We should mention...
He's already the highest.
Yeah, I was going to say we should mention that with the Fendaline from last week, this is officially the Doctor with the most blood on his hands.
And the character with the most blood on his hands. Like out of everyone on the death count, including villains.
Including the Master, who's tried to commit genocide multiple times over.
Good thing their roles aren't reversed.
Well, so they were going to put on this helmet thing on the Doctor and the other guy. What was the other guy's name?
I don't know.
I think it was also something with an M. And the guy mentions that nobody ever remembers anything after the process because it like erases their mind, I guess. But he also mentions that he... Oh, it's Bisham. His name's Bisham. So his job was like manufacturing this gas called PCM, and the Doctor's like, an anxiety-inducing agent. Strange.
So, yeah, all the workers have been breathing PCM, and that's why they are so on edge all the time, I guess.
Yeah, it was a nice little connection to the beginning where the Doctor walks out of the TARDIS and is like, the air is scented.
Does he say that? I don't remember that.
I was like, weird little throwaway line. But turns out it's not. Turns out it's scented with PCM. So the Doctor escapes, and by escapes I mean gets escorted to Hayde's office, because Hayde is like, you know what we can do? We can put a tracker on the Doctor and just follow him to the Undercity. I don't know why he does that, because he's actually well aware that the tracker doesn't work in the Undercity.
Don't they actually even know where the Undercity is? I mean...
Yeah, I think they wanted to see if the Doctor was getting weapons for the rebels, I guess, because Hayde believes he's getting weapons, and he calls the Doctor like an Ajax or something.
Yeah, there's some clear class distinctions here, or job distinctions, which I guess equate to class distinctions here on Pluto. But it wasn't they didn't go into them in too much detail, and it really wasn't that important at the end. But I think they mentioned that Cordo is a D class, which is like the lowest class.
Yeah, Bishop was also a D class.
And Mandrel, when he worked at the company, was a B class.
Yeah, easy to name your closest after letters, though. It's really simple.
Yeah.
So the Doctor meets with Hayde, And Cordo has actually run back to the group. Was like, guys, the doctor got captured. Don't know what to do. And they're gonna kill Leela, but then Leela kind of threatens Manjul's like, hey, come any closer, I'm gonna slice your throat open. And Manjul's actually kind of a wimp this whole serial. He keeps threatening to kill the doctor and Leela and then spends like 10 minutes trying to justify not killing them.
Well, I mean, it all works out in his favor. So
Conveniently. But Leela decides to go rescue the doctor from the medical base, holding cell, whatever room.
Wherever she thinks he is, where he's actually not. She takes along a couple people with her.
She takes Cordo and she takes Canine, I think.
They find Canine, but doesn't she also take another...
No, she just takes Cordo, because they rescue Bishop.
Oh yeah, they run into Bishop.
Yeah, because Bishop's still in the room with his head right next to a bag of jelly babies. And Bishop's like, oh, the doctor was your friend? Yeah, he got taken away a little while ago, probably to the gatherer's office.
And they're like, well, shoot. So they try and make their escape, and they run into some guards in the hallway, and that's how episode 2 ends. Again, another completely blank hallway.
Yeah, actually,
with no doors.
The least interesting hallway we've seen in the entire run of this show.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, this might as well have just been a reconstruction with how uninteresting these sets were and how little movement there was in this scene. Well, it actually improves a little bit into episode 3 because Leela has Canine hide around a corner, and when the guard's near, Canine just shoots them with his laser, which apparently can bend around corners.
No, I thought they waited till the car was in front of the corner and then Canine shot them because they couldn't see Canine around the corner.
I guess that makes a lot more sense, but
yeah, it makes more sense than bending laser beams.
I just like thinking that Canine can bend the beam.
Canine can just defy the laws of physics?
Yes. It makes him more overpowered.
Well, before episode 2 ends, actually, the doctor meets with Haid, and Haid is like, yeah, I'm going to give you this 1,000 Talmars. Oh, do you want a raspberry leaf? They just consume raspberry leaves, I guess.
Well, it's kind of hinted at that plant life is...
dead.
Yes, dead, and probably not even on Pluto in the first place, and as such is like a super delicacy, because I remember in the beginning, Cordo... I don't know why he mentions this, but he says that he was shown a picture of a tree in a textbook once.
He says it because Haid's desk is made of mahogany.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. And he's like, wow, real wood. You know, I saw a picture of a tree once.
And Haid is like, a less efficient way to make oxygen. Which, I mean, unless they've invented some really efficient way to make oxygen, isn't really true, but... So the doctor leaves. He's got a tracker on him, but he knows this. He's actually well aware. He gives Haid a jelly baby as he leaves, and Haid's like, tasty. The third time the doctor offers anyone jelly babies in this serial, he's offering more and more people jelly babies. Not to mention that bag he left in the medical bay, which means this bag that he offered Haid is a completely separate bag of jelly babies that he just carries around.
Well, maybe this has something to do with Holmes writing this. Who knows? He also uses that other thing later that we don't exactly like. Well, but anyway.
I think his appearance here was okay because it's been a while since we've seen it.
Yeah, I guess. And they got a little joke out of what they were doing with it, so... Yeah.
We'll talk about that when we get there, but yeah, so Leela and crew, I was going to say changed my mind. Leela and the crew kind of escape on the little buggy vehicle thing.
Yeah.
That was coming towards them, and they're driving away, and Leela's on the turret. She's like, I got the gun.
She tries to drive, but she can't figure it out. I think she's giving it voice commands. She's like, go, you stupid machine. And I think either Bisham or Cordo is like, I'll drive, you just man the gun.
So they're driving, they've got Canine kind of just strapped on the back.
Yeah, the machine moves super slowly, and they try and ambush some guards, and they kind of just drive by the guard. Not drive by as in, gun them down, but they kind of just drive past the guards.
They try to drive by.
Yeah, actually, they do have a little firefight there.
I think Leela none of them get gunned down, but Leela gets hit. She's like, ah! She falls off the very slow-moving machine. I think they took the machine to bust through the blockade, because I think the guards had set up a blockade.
Right, but even still, the machine is moving super slowly, and they look like they could just be shot off at any moment by the guards, but they're not.
Well, futuristic technology. I mean, the guns look like kind of poorly made props, to be honest.
Yeah, they kind of just look like pieces of styrofoam. Maybe some toilet paper roll tubes stuck on the end. No, they didn't look that bad.
So they capture Leela. So they lost the Doctor, but they captured Leela. And the Doctor makes it all the way back into the Undercity, and Manjul's pretty suspicious of this 1,000 Talmars the Doctor just shows up with.
Right, and he thinks that the Doctor is a spy for the company, and he threatens the Doctor with
branding.
Yeah, I guess branding.
Thing never does it, and the Doctor's like, just do it. And Manjul's like, tell the truth, Doctor, tell me. And the Doctor's like, I already told you, but he told you everything. Just do it, Manjul.
Well, maybe he didn't do it because it wasn't actually a brand, because did you notice that it just looked like a piece of plastic painted red to look hot? It was literally just a plastic stick with a red painted end.
I'd like to see an outtake when Manjul goes, okay, just presses it to Tom Baker's face and he goes, ah! Then he's like, just kidding, it's just a piece of plastic.
Yeah, again, this is one of the more dark serials.
Right, but the Doctor tells him everything he knows, and that he believes that there's a tracker on him, but that it doesn't work in the Undercity, because the tracker apparently works with these really obvious, really giant camera boxes on the wall that aren't in the hallway that Leela was in earlier, but are in the hallway that goes to the Undercity for some reason.
I don't know. Maybe they were in some sort of restricted area, I guess. But anyway, I'm not sure how the people here didn't realize that those were cameras, because it's pretty obvious. And they're like, oh, those are just the atmosphere regulation systems.
Yeah, when the Doctor tells Cordo to go, like, deactivate two of them, I thought they were going to be a really small, kind of obscure thing, because the Doctor's like, be careful, Cordo. But then you see them a couple scenes later, and they're just giant boxes on the wall with tube cameras sticking out of them.
Yep, so they rig up the cameras. The Doctor
walks back and forth, so they rig it to make it look like the Doctor's walking back and forth between the two cameras. The Doctor also fiddles with the tracker device on him, which I guess is connected to the cameras and tells them when to turn on. Energy saving, I suppose. So he fiddles with that, so the tracker also says that he's walking between the two cameras, so...
Right, so when Haid and Marn look on the camera feed, it just looks like he's there.
Yep.
And the tracker says he's there too, so...
We also didn't mention that we've met the Collector by this point.
Right. He's...
That's it, we met the Collector. He's kind of a weird guy. He looks like... If you've watched James Bond, he looks like Blofeld.
I was going to say he looks like what's-his-name from Austin Powers, which I guess is supposed to be a reference to
Blofeld, yeah. Dr. Evil? Yeah, Dr. Evil.
He's the one who gels his eyebrows, by the way.
Yeah, it's those spiky points.
He sort of talks weird, too, and I don't think I'm going to attempt to do his voice.
No, it sounds more like a caricature of Mickey Mouse mashed with a weird accent.
Yeah, I guess. Doesn't really describe it. But
describes it well enough.
Okay. He also sits hunched over and doesn't leave his chair.
Yeah, his wheelchair thing.
We find out why later.
Yeah, it's...
In kind of an interesting plot twist, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So Leela is... They're going to steam Leela. Again, another one of the more dark serials. They're going to put Leela in a steamer.
Well, I mean, not to mention they've microphoned up the steaming room to hear her scream in agony while she dies.
Right, I think it's the Collector who really wants to hear the subtle hints of fear in her screams. Yeah. But they put her in a straitjacket but it was actually more like a straight skirt, because did you notice how it had a super short skirt cut off?
It did look a bit janky, to be a little bit shady. Yeah, so she's got that thing going, and the Doctor finds out from an announcement on TV because the Doctor has actually decided to incite a rebellion amongst the young Undercity, because they've got 2 guns now. That Bishop and
Yeah, 2
Cordo.
guns, that'll be enough now.
Hey, the best revolutions start with 1.
What's that from? What's
I
that
don't
quote
know.
from? Oh, huh. Okay.
Just making up profound quotes on this show. That's what we do. Nope, just kidding. That's not what we do at all. So the Doctor decides to incite a rebellion amongst the Undercity members, and they all just kind of decide to go along with it, since Manuel's like, yeah, it could work if we shut down all the PCM manufacturing stations, which are all, for some reason, controlled from one control room.
It's not that surprising that they're controlled from one place, is it?
But there's 8 of them. There's
Eight of what?
of the pumps to pump the PCM.
Oh.
And you have to shut down all 8 to stop the PCM, but it just so happens they're all controlled from one room. You'd think if they built 8 of them in separate locations, they were trying to stop people from being able to shut them all down at once, and they control them all from one room.
Or they were just trying to pump PCM to more locations at once.
Not to mention that room also controls the water pressure.
Yeah, that room pretty much actually just controls everything and has a little vent that connects directly to the steamer. So yeah, that's where they make their way to, and apparently Mandrill knows how to operate everything since he was a B class.
Yeah, he worked in that room, I think.
Yeah. And the Doctor needs to go into the vent and save Leela.
Well, he doesn't actually know that yet. They get there and they turn off the PCM. And then there's the announcement on the screen. It's like, hey, this Doctor's a notorious gangster. He's a gang member. Better bring him in. And then they show a picture of Leela and like, this gangster is the one we're going to steam later. I was like, where did they get these mugshots of the Doctor and Leela? When did they take these?
Yeah, that's a good question.
But anyway, the Doctor finds out Leela's going to be steamed, so they kind of throw together this on-the-spot plan to go through the vent into the steamer, but turns out that the heat in the vent is too high unless you turn this valve in the vent, which would divert the pressure away from the vent, and K9 can apparently go in and just blast it with his gun, and that'll work.
Yep. So they only have a couple minutes, and it's very suspenseful, and yeah, but they eventually get in there, save Leela.
Well,
and
episode
get out.
2 ends with the Doctor in the vents and Mandrill like, I can't hold it. 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. We also skipped over K9's best line of the serial.
Which was?
And the Doctor was like, K9, if you die in there, and K9's like, Master, your condolences are noticed. Please do not embarrass me.
Okay.
It's the best line in the serial.
No, it wasn't. The best
it
line
was.
is in episode 4. I specifically noted this line in episode 4 because it was the best.
No, the best was K9 saying to the Doctor, please don't embarrass me. Anyway, yeah, episode 3 ends with the Doctor in the vents and Manuel being like, can't hold it. And then episode 4 begins with them in the steaming room. Leela hasn't really been yelling. I guess she wants a warrior's death. She dies silently. She doesn't want to give the Collector the pleasure. But the Doctor busts in and is about to save her when Mandrill contacts him on this communicator, which the Doctor specifically said, hey, Mandrill, don't contact me. I'll contact you.
Yep.
So they leave, but the microphones had picked up someone saying Doctor, and the Collector was like, I guess the Doctor didn't disappoint. Somehow found a way to rescue her. Haid, you imbecile. Because Haid had actually gone to go try and get the Doctor, because we forgot to mention that Haid and the Collector had this meeting where the Collector was like, you let the Doctor go? Capture him again, and I want a 5,000 Telmar bounty on his head out of your personal fund. And Haid is like, what?
So, right, Haid is super motivated to capture the Doctor himself because he doesn't want to cough up that 5,000 Talmars. So he goes to where the Doctor's supposedly pacing back and forth, and he's not there, obviously.
Meanwhile, I should mention that the Collector's actually looked up the Doctor in this information system, and it's revealed that the information system knows the Doctor's a renegade Time Lord
Yep.
who has a history of inciting rebellion against tyrannical overlords.
How they know this, I have no idea. And it's probably best not to think about it too much, because this could throw continuity for a loop.
Yeah, so we kind of just skim over that anyway until later when Haid comes back to the Collector again, and the Collector's like, yeah, the Doctor's not human, he's a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey. And Haid's like, I don't know what that means.
Well, I guess maybe it makes sense when it's revealed that the Collector isn't actually human.
Yeah.
Maybe. But
yeah, because
anyway,
I think the Doctor says, I've had run-ins with your species before or something like that, or I've heard of your species before.
Right. He's a Usurian or something like that. But anyway, the Doctor and the rest of the rebellion have broadcast some sort of message saying that the rebellion has already been successful.
Yeah, because it's going to inspire more people to join the rebellion. And it works!
Yep. And then even Cordo runs into the room and he's like, we did it, guys! We're successful! And they're like, Cordo, you idiot.
Cordo's like, well, I'm going to go kill some people. And they leave K9 guarding the hallway. There's still hilariously overpowered K9, I might add.
Yep, but wouldn't you think that a message saying that the rebellion has already overthrown the government, would maybe cause people to just kind of be like, well, I guess we don't really have to do anything then. We already won. Maybe if they said that they were close to victory, then more people would take up arms.
I guess, but
I don't know.
Maybe the lack of PCM has kickstarted all of their adrenaline. Yeah, I just really want to go out and join a rebellion.
Maybe.
I just have a hankering to overthrow government today. Kind of the Doctor's entire life.
What do I want to wake up in the morning? What do I want to do today? Guess I'll overthrow the government. So the Doctor and Leela make their way into the control room for some reason. I actually don't even remember why they decide to go there. Maybe it was just glossed over and they're like, well, we need to get them into the control room. Let's kind of just have them go there and not explain why.
Well, like the next 5 minutes of this serial are just Haid and...
Morn?
Mon.
I can't not laugh when I...
Hey, Mon. Haid and Mon
you have to
failing.
You have to admit the serial would have actually been more interesting had Haid had a Jamaican accent.
Yes. Then Haid goes to the roof because apparently all the D-claws are looking at the sun and is like, that's reserved for upper-class members. I better go put a stop to this. And then they all pick up Haid and throw him off the roof.
Yep. So I guess that little, Cordo's attempted suicide was sort of foreshadowing for this.
They just throw him off the roof.
Yep. There's also the other scene where the guard walks into the little bunker or wherever the rebels are hanging out, and he's like, stop this at once, or I'll shoot you, and they just kind of laugh at him
and take his gun.
Yeah, honestly kind of felt bad for the guard there.
Well, Mon joins the
He was
rebellion.
only following orders. No, I'm just kidding.
Orders from Haid, who's now dead at the bottom of the building. Splattered. Flat, like a pancake.
Oh, God. Sidewalk pizza.
Oh, gosh. So, Mon is decided to join the rebellion, and the Doctor and Leela have gone to go visit the Collector. And he's not there yet.
Well, Leela almost dies, actually. They open a little door.
They open the safe.
Yeah, right. They
try
open
to
the
open the
safe. And the Doctor says the best line of the serial, which was, Leela asks him why he's whispering. He's like, I always whisper when I'm opening safes.
Leela's
best
like, what are you doing?
Right there.
No, I thought the best line was going to be the next line, where Leela's like, how's it going? And the Doctor's like, it always looks so easy when everyone else does it. And he backs away and takes out the sonic screwdriver and just uses that to open the safe.
And Leela walks in and is zapped.
Well, they both go in, realize there's nothing in there, and then leave, and then Leela's like, wait, are you sure? And she's going back in, the Doc's like, no, don't! And then she goes in and gets zapped.
And apparently the switch to turn off the zapper is right there on the wall.
Yeah, so the doctor turns it off, but Leela's kind of passed out for now. Out of commission. We should also mention the doctor hypnotized a guard when they came in and also accidentally hypnotized Leela.
That was funny.
Yeah, apparently that was made up on the set by Tom Baker and Louise Jameson. They're like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if you accidentally hypnotized me? And Tom was like, yeah, let's do it.
Good on them. It's one of the best parts of this serial, to be honest. But we should probably mention that Leela getting knocked out here was actually supposed to be her death.
Yeah, and reading that actually spoiled for me when Leela actually goes out, which is a pity, but I guess it was bound to happen, I suppose.
Not really. You could have kept it secret.
We've spoiled so many companion write-outs. We've spoiled more than we haven't. It's like more probable that we will than not.
Okay, I guess. But, I mean, Leela dying here pretty much would have sucked. Especially since there's only about 7 or 6 minutes left in the episode.
Yeah, and apparently, A, Tom was like, yeah, that doesn't really make sense. B, I guess Anthony Reed or whoever was kind of consulting director maybe was like, yeah, that wouldn't really fit with the Doctor's character right now, just kind of mourning Leela in the middle of the final episode for, like, the rest of the season. It's just kind of weird, so let's not do that, Robert. And he's like, okay.
So, good on them. Good on them. The Doctor confronts the Collector.
Yeah, the Collector comes in and he's like, so what do you want? And the Doctor's like, look, tell me about the company. And he's like, well, we took over this planet with economic power. Yes.
Yeah, it's basically it. I guess humans had already... I'm just making this up. I guess humans had already colonized Pluto, and then the Usurians...
No, the Collector explained all this. Earth was dying, so the Usurians came in and terraformed Mars, and then basically moved all the humans to Mars and charged them to live on Mars. And then when that ran out, they colonized
Pluto. Ice Warriors?
They just killed them all off, I guess. Or maybe they just died off. I guess this is supposed to be set way in the future. Or maybe the Ice Warriors moved out, because I guess if Curse and Monster of Peladon is anything to go by, the Ice Warriors have become a galactic power at that point as part of the Federation, so maybe they moved off Mars.
Maybe they moved into the sun. No. Anyway. Yeah, I guess I don't really remember that whole explanation at all.
Yeah, the Collector gives that whole spiel to the Doctor, and he's like, wow. Just wow. And he's like, I know the Usurians. And he's like, you do? And he's like, yeah, in the handbook they're categorized as fungi. And the Collector's like, no, it's not true. No. And then he starts punching into his little computer thing.
And going crazy.
Goes crazy and regresses to his natural form, which is a piece of seaweed, apparently.
Well, first the guard somehow gets dehypnotized. I think the Doctor accidentally says the keyword that dehypnotizes him, so he comes in, and then Leela throws her knife, killing him. Then
presumably. I don't think he died.
Presumably. But anyway, then that's when the Collector starts going insane for some reason.
The Doctor fed a 5% growth tax into the machine. The Collector couldn't handle it.
I guess I missed that too. That's interesting.
Yeah, the Doctor says it right before he says their natural form is seaweed.
Yep. It's seaweed. You can never escape.
Great. Just great. So he lives in that chair. That's why he couldn't leave it, because the chair was keeping him in a human-looking form.
And yeah, everything's pretty much solved now.
Yeah, they leave, and they're like, Doctor, please stay. And he's like, nope, I never stay to clean up my mess. He doesn't actually say that. I'm just going to
pull out of Afghanistan. No.
Topical political commentary. More like the Doctor was like, yeah, I don't think I'd be a good ruler for you guys, but I believe you guys will colonize Earth again. Don't forget, you got to liberate the other 5 metropolises.
And they're like, but how are we going to do that? How are we going to liberate all our brothers and sisters, and how are we going to get back to Earth?
300 million people living on Pluto.
The Doctor's like, well, I'm sure you'll figure something out. See ya.
Well, clearly the Doctor's been in their future, so he knows they have to figure it out, right?
No.
I guess not.
What if he comes back later and gets all face of evil?
Great. Yeah, they didn't really set a timeline for this serial, so I like to imagine it happens right before the arc. They send off an arc towards Earth, and it gets stuck in orbit around Jupiter.
Great.
Trying to tie the human continuity together. There's so many things that happened in human history on this show, like the Dalek invasion of Earth in 2012.
Yeah, I'm just going to assume they all happen in multiple universes, because that makes it a lot easier on my brain.
It's more fun to try cram them all into one universe.
No.
It is. Try it sometime.
Just reconcile every single TV story, novel,
audio, short story, random throwaway prose they put in somewhere, including that one where the Third Doctor watches the Peter Cushing movies, and that one where John Luke Karate appears as a character in the Doctor Who universe. Just reconcile them all together into one coherent timeline. Well, anyway.
Lifelong project right there.
So they head to the TARDIS. They're leaving, and the Doctor kind of flips the switch, and the TARDIS jolts, and the chess table falls over, and the Doctor's like, sorry, K9, and K9's like, I don't need your condolences, Doctor. And the Doctor's like, we'll finish the chess game later, and then smiles, and then it ends.
Yep. I told you it came back into play.
You call that coming back into play?
Yes. They didn't drop it, so it came back into play.
Was less coming back into play and more just a reference to the beginning of the serial.
Well, it was more the punchline to a joke they set up 4 weeks ago. Imagine telling someone a joke and then revealing the answer 4 weeks later.
It's like the joke about the yellow brick where there's two parts, and you tell someone the first part and then wait like 6 years and tell them the second part.
I forgot how that one went, actually.
Yeah, I only remember the
fact that you wait a couple years.
Should look up that joke, and then we can like tell the first part next week.
And then tell the next part when we catch up.
I just remember reading some guy on Reddit was like, someone told me this joke once and didn't really understand it, and someone commented like, oh, that joke. Wow, that guy had a lot of faith that someone else would come along and finish the joke for him, because it's been like, 8 years for you? And the guy's like, yeah, it's been 8 years since I heard the first part.
Well, that kind of sucks. It also has nothing to do with the serial. But yeah, looking back, like I mentioned before, really not much going on with the plot, I guess.
Yeah, you say that, but we talked about it for like 47 minutes, which is longer than most of our 4-episode serial episodes go on for.
Well, the plot-wise, it's pretty simple, but I think the character interactions here are what make this serial enjoyable, especially between the Doctor, Leela, and K9, and the serial-specific characters were pretty good too, and Haid obviously was pretty fun.
I mean, until he got chucked off a building.
No, that was the most fun part about him.
Wow, okay. Yeah.
The dialogue and the banter here was, I don't know, pretty great.
Yeah, I think it was also kind of fun because there was a lot of subtle references to taxes and...
Subtle? Yeah,
no, there was some like subtle references, like the acronym for one of the things in the city was the same acronym as the tax service in Britain.
Huh.
Or like Morton's Fork, which is what Haid plans to use on the Doctor and Co. as some sort of military tactic. One isn't actually a military tactic. It's actually, I guess two, it's a kind of a logical, not really a paradox, but it's like when two different chains of thought lead you to the same unreasonable conclusion. And it's actually named because the original Morton's Fork was poor people probably live frugally and therefore have money left over to pay taxes, and rich people are rich so they can pay taxes. So both lines of reasoning lead to the fact that people should pay taxes.
That's interesting.
So yeah, there's a lot of weird little subtle references. I think also the home planet of the Collector was a reference to
Usurious.
something else, but I don't remember exactly what.
Apparently it's an actual English word, Usurious, and it means like an unreasonable tax load or something. I've never heard it. But
so, like I said, a lot of subtle, even though there's also a lot of not subtle references to the whole tax debacle, tax underlying message, I suppose.
Well, despite that this serial was on the dark side, like I keep mentioning. Yeah, the dark side of the Force. No,
Dark side of tax.
the Star Wars hype is high right now. But anyway,
2 weeks. Don't understand why it wouldn't be.
This serial was also really humorous at times, which I thought was, I guess,
There's a lot of swings between humor and not humor. Maybe that's Anthony Reid playing into it, possibly.
maybe.
Because maybe Anthony Reid and Graham Williams are going to try and move towards a slightly more lighthearted tone now that Robert Holmes, I guess, is officially not script editor anymore. So this week was actually I looked it up, it's the first week that Anthony Reid took over as script editor. So
Yep. So I goofed.
He's script editor for 3 serials this season and then all of next season, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. There was no trademark. Well, I guess there was an info dump at the end when the Collector explained the entire history of his species and humans together.
I guess, yeah.
We're going to be playing a new game, I guess, in the coming weeks called Spot the Anthony Reid Info Dump. But yeah, I guess it's the end of the Robert Holmes era.
It all went by too quickly. No, not really. No.
I was gonna say, it wasn't really. We had like 3 seasons of Sarah Jane and then this half season of Leela. So, I guess it's been a season of Leela now.
It's pretty much been a season.
Yeah. So, I don't really have anything else to say, actually.
Yep.
Email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, Anthony Reid style info dumps.
Try and reconcile every piece of Doctor Who media and tell us how you did it, because we'd like to know.
I mean, the wiki tries too. The wiki has pages of timelines for every Doctor, and then they always have a section at the bottom that's like uncategorized or unplaceable because there's no references to other stories in them, so they can't place it in the Doctor's timeline. Like those companions made up for the Second Doctor for the TV comic strips that are basically just straight up implied to be the Doctor dreaming for the entire strip. Also, check us out on YouTube at Trust Your Doctor. Check us out on iTunes at Trust Your Doctor. Leave a rating if you liked the show. Helps other people find us. Tell your friends about the show. Check out Triple Play. Train wreck of an episode on the holiday special.
Star Wars holiday special, that is.
Came out this week, so look for that on the website or wherever you find your podcasts.
If you think episode 7 is going to suck, just watch the holiday special and listen to our episode, and there's no way you'll be disappointed in episode 7.
Well, apparently George Lucas saw episode 7 this week and he enjoyed it, so I don't know what that says about it, but there you go.
Well, anyway, check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor, and like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter, TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next week we continue on with Underworld, which, hey, maybe takes place in the Undercity. No.
Why would they do that?
Yeah, well, until then, the end.